So we're continuing in this evangelism model. Remember, we've been looking at the contacts and the prospects, and really speaking about how it is that we can cultivate before we sow, and how we can seek opportunity to soften hearts so that people will be more receptive when it comes time to having biblical discussions with them. Anybody who's going to plow a field or prep the ground for sowing the seed, they're going to make sure that they turn the soil over before they put the seed in the ground so that it has the best chance of actually producing its crop. Same said with our opportunities in trying to teach other people, cultivating first to soften the heart, to make them more receptive to what we're trying to teach them. The last thing we talked about was sharing meals, and we talked about when we have visitors to be sure and someone try and invite them to lunch. And when you're there, it's an opportunity to get to know that person, right? To learn more about them, to see if there's any common ground, to see if you have any kind of common likes, what they've done in their life, what they do now, different things about them, just to get to know that person, and of course let them know who you are also. And what that is cultivating. It's cultivating hearts. Seek opportunity to pray for them, and also seek opportunity to do something further with them after having that lunch. And ultimately what you're shooting for is opening up your own home and having a dinner with them. Seeking opportunity to be hospitable. Who just absolutely loves inviting strangers to their home to have dinner?
I do.
Aaron, I figured that would be the case, right?
I really do.
We're somewhat reserved in this, but nonetheless, it's a great opportunity to get to know people. If you've already spent a little time with them, having lunch at some restaurant, the next step is to go do something else with them or invite them to your home so that you can then begin sowing the seed once you're in a more comfortable and quiet environment where it's more of a one-on-one or family with family kind of conversation. So let's look at a couple of verses in the book of Acts. We briefly mentioned these at the close of class last week. Nonetheless, I want us to see the idea of people being in others' homes as you work through the book of Acts, and you see that in regard to the evangelism that was taking place there when the church was established. So if you look at Acts chapter 2, somebody read verse 46 for us. Acts chapter 2 and verse 46.
Breaking bread from the house to house.
Right,
they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart.
House to house, right? Sharing in this new fellowship one with another, but also going from house to house, sharing bread with one another, sharing meals with one another. Somebody look at Acts chapter 5 and verse 42 for us. Acts 5 and verse 42. Somebody else, Acts 20 and verse 20.
And daily in the temple and in every house, they did not cease teaching and preaching Jesus as the Christ.
All right, so where was that teaching taking place? Temple and in the house, right? Teaching that was taking place not only in these synagogues or at the temple, but also in people's home. A willingness to invite people in, to use it as an opportunity to study with people. Who has Acts chapter 20 and verse 20?
I kept back nothing that was helpful, but proclaimed it to you, and taught you publicly from house to house.
Right, so even the Apostle Paul, in his speaking with the elders at Ephesus, reminded them of his work. And what did some of his work involve? House to house, right? That kind of communication, that kind of walking into people's homes to have that kind of interaction with them. Turn in your Bible to Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19, and even go back to Jesus in his ministry. Luke chapter 19, somebody read for us verse 5 and then verse 10.
When Jesus preached at the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacharias, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today.
Verse 10.
For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost.
All right, so Jesus himself, going up to this young man, says what? Today I'm going to be at your house, right? We're going to your house, and what was his purpose in this? Seek and save that which was lost. So our homes are also a place where evangelism should take place, right? We need to put forth effort to that. So the overall call then is for us to be hospitable. Somebody look at 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 8 through 10 for us, please. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 8 through 10.
Above all things, have fervent love for one another, for love will cover multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without grumbling, as each one has received a gift. Minister to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God.
All right, so we're to use that which we have been blessed with to share with other people. And I really appreciate what's put in there. All right, we're to be hospitable and what? Without what? Grumbling, right? So it's something that we need to be willing to do and something that we need to participate in, because truly it's in your home where you're going to be able to have the deeper conversations, the more meaningful conversations, and truly get to the meat of the gospel. That's not going to be at the restaurant, right? That's not going to be at some bowling alley or anything of that nature. It's going to be in your home. That's where the real conversations are going to come into place, and we have to be willing to be hospitable enough to invite people into our homes, all right? I'm not saying to invite the guy that has his hood over his head in the summertime and has his glasses on, all that kind of stuff, right? We're not talking about that character. We know the people we're looking for, right? Jesus came to seek and save the lost. We have the same responsibility to share the gospel with others. Now, I think it's very important to recognize the need to have the whole family involved in this. You remember the scene with Martha when Jesus was there at her house? What was she doing? Serving, right? She's so worried about everything else that's going on that she had removed herself from Jesus, the one she needed to be listening to. Now, I understand if you invite somebody to your home, there's preparation that has to take place, but a good way of going about it is trying to make sure all of that that can be done beforehand is done. So when people come into your home, then you have that direct communication with them. If they have kids, you have kids, what should your kids be doing? Huh? Entertaining, right? They're going to be entertaining the other kids so that you and the other parents can have good conversation and get to some deep matters of Scripture and the gospel, right? So nobody's excluded from this evangelistic work. If we want our kids to see us doing this and we want them to do it, they need to see it, right? They need to be part of this and they need to be active in it, and we have to be willing to find them a place in it. Who else can we get involved in this? Outside of our own home.
Neighbors.
Neighbors? Brethren. What about our brethren?
What's our neighbors?
Right? You're going to be seeking opportunity to not only be around these people yourself, but also more of your brethren, to be around them just the same. And collectively, you're going to be showing them the life of Christ, right? The way Christ would have us to live. And it's going to be a great example. Think about how it's been said that the greatest lesson you ever teach is the way that you live your life, right? Not the things that you say, but rather the actions of your life. The more Christian people you can surround them with, the better off, in my own opinion. So here is where you would start sowing the seed, right? Yeah, I saw this, and you know how much effort it was going to be to go back and change this one slide? It wasn't. Normally it would have been. Today, I was like, it'll be fine, because watch this. You see, it comes in when the next point comes up. In the home is where we're going to start trying to sow the seed, right? So you've tried to learn about this individual, say at the restaurant, whether you've gone to the golf course with them, whatever it is the case, whatever common ground that you've found. And look, I'll keep re-emphasizing this. Evangelism is not just hit and miss, like I'm going to have this one conversation, it's going to work or it's not. There's effort involved in this, spending time with people and really getting to know people. And by the time you get to this conversation at your home, there's some trust that's built, there's at least a good friendship that's built, and it's going to be much more likely that they're going to be receptive to hear the things that you have to say. All right? Again, we'll talk about this later. Back to the Bible. If you're not comfortable, trying to lead a study and you need some sort of guideline to follow, these are really good resources. We'll try and spend a little bit of time in a future class kind of walking through those books. And I will tell you this just up front, the more you know that book, the more you know all the questions in that book, the better you're going to be able to present it to somebody else. If you take that book and you've never looked at it yourself, and then you sit down and you try and have that study with somebody else, they're going to recognize that you too are trying to figure out what's going on in here. It's just not going to flow the same. So to be effective, you need to go through it yourself, walk through all the questions, think about the answers, think about discussion that can come up with those, but primarily focus on those questions, the answers that come, and who are you going to let do all the answering through that? They will, right? You want them to be able to answer these things. Who are you going to have read all the scripture through this? They will. You want them to read it. You want them to come to the understanding themselves. So it's not something that you're telling them, but rather they're coming to this conclusion, and it's going to sink deeper in their heart when they do that. Now, of course, they're going to ask you questions and things of that nature, but nonetheless, you answer where you can, but when it comes to certain things, it's better off to defer. And we'll talk more about that when we get into those study booklets. Also use it as an opportunity to pray. We've talked about that in every one of these segments, praying for them. You sit down to have that meal with them, what prayers can be offered for their family, for them, for people they know. Continue to show them that prayerful type mindset, that loving mindset, and looking for opportunity then to teach as well as to do things for them. The next thing with this idea of cultivating, meeting needs, turn back to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. Everybody's just excited now to start inviting people to their homes, right? Yes?
Yeah. Y'all can invite them to my home if you're not comfortable inviting them to yours. Tell them there's this place, the Home of Recovery, is already feeding like 9 or 10 people. A few more will not hurt. Come on in.
Luke chapter 10. We know these verses. I want us to at least think a little bit about the way in which this Samaritan served this other person. All right, so I'm going to read through this. We'll get to what the Samaritan themselves actually did, and I want us to kind of think about some of this and how it applies. And we're going to kind of have some open discussion about this, all right? So Luke chapter 10, verse 25. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, What is written in the law? What is your reading of it? So he answered and said, You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength, and with all of your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he answered, and he said to him, You have answered rightly. Do this, and you will live. But he, wanting to justify himself, said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Then Jesus answered and said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a certain priest came down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. So he went with him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, and he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day, when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I come again, I will repay you. So which of these 3 do you think was his neighbor to him who fell among the thieves? All right, so let's think about this Samaritan. What practical application can we take for ourselves when it comes to serving others?
Don't discriminate.
Don't discriminate, right? Big lesson in that found within these verses, don't discriminate. Be willing to help anybody who is in need. You definitely don't want to walk up to one individual and have a mindset that's like, well, I don't know about that person, right? It should always be a heart of service, a heart of compassion, even as we see in this text. What else?
Don't just do what's needed. Go the extra mile.
Good point. Don't simply do what is needed. You can see within these verses, this Samaritan went far beyond what was needed, went the extra mile to provide for even a little further after after they would leave, right? So went the extra mile. What else?
Do your best to develop the heart that has compassion,
Mhm.
not just to show the acts of it, but to develop
Right.
that sort of true, sincere compassion.
Right. This wasn't just some sort of surface level, okay, let me help you out with this. This is real compassion, real care, real concern, and a willingness to make sacrifice along the way. And I think that points to the heart of the matter, a willingness to really make sacrifice in helping this individual. What else?
Don't expect anything in return.
Don't expect anything in return, right? We're not trying to help other people so that we can get something back from them or even a pat on the back or anything of that nature. It's simply about serving other people, simply being loving. What else?
Put yourself in their spot. Put yourself in their spot.
Right, put yourself in their spot. Yeah, absolutely. Make it very personal. If you're really going to care for them and provide for them, put yourself in their spot and really just pour out your heart to them to help them through the situation and whatever sacrifice that might mean along the way. Yes, sir.
So you have a religious leader here who is not living the life he should. And then you have one who knows and teaches the law who is not following that law.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be like them. We need to be like
Yeah.
the one who cares and helps.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and there's speculation that could go into some of this stuff, but you think about the ones who passed by, and of course they had this image of being that which was holy or that which is good or that which is religious, but nonetheless their actions didn't speak anything toward that. This Samaritan one comes by and actually shows a true heart of compassion, and really when you look at it in verse 33, it says he had compassion. Same word used when Jesus would look at the multitudes, and it says he had compassion on them. Exact same word. And literally in the original language, it's actually kind of even to the point of stranger to friend to anybody. It's just compassion in general to anybody who has any kind of need, right? Just real heartfelt compassion toward individuals, and you see that in this text. When you get to verse 34, it was very personal. Think about what Coach said, put yourself in their spot. Think about what Kay said and going the extra mile. This was something they did hands-on themselves to provide for this person. It's real easy to say, okay, well, let me give you this and you go take care of that, right? Maybe it's easier to say, well, here, let me give you a little bit of money and you find your own way out of this situation. But it's something completely different to go ahead and sacrifice your time, sacrifice your energy, and actually be hands-on in helping an individual through their problem. And it speaks so much more in volume to how much you care about them. Other than that, I think we pretty well covered. Yes.
So compassion isn't just, most people in the world think of compassion and think it's just a thought. It's a
You're right.
feeling.
Yeah. Right.
True
It's
compassion is an action.
yeah.
It takes action to show a true compassion. It
Mhm.
goes from a thought or a feeling into a physical action to help someone who's less fortunate.
Right. It's a feeling that moves you to a response. Right. So absolutely, that's a good point. So let's think about this a little bit. In regards to helping others, we recognize, even as Jesus would teach in Matthew chapter 25, 31 through 46, remember when he speaks of this judgment scene about how they're going to be separated to the right and they're going to be separated to the left. Who are those that were going to receive the good reward? What comparison did Jesus make about the difference here? Matthew 25, verse 31 through 46. the ones that served, right? And essentially he says, in your serving other people, who is it that you're actually serving? Right? So we're serving him in our service to other people. And it's something that we should always seek the opportunity to do. But one of the things that we have to be willing to do sometimes to really know what somebody's problem is to get to know them well enough to actually know what their problems are. Right? It's not always going to be the case that you're going to be walking along the road and you're just going to find somebody who's laid out on the ground, who's had their clothes stripped and they're beat half to death and they're of need of your service. Sometimes the problems that people face, you're not going to know about until you get to know them. I mean, a lot of people actually hold those things in and they're not very quick to express the problems that they're facing in life. Maybe it's they're embarrassed, maybe it is that they're uncomfortable speaking about it, whatever the case may be. The more you get to know them, the more that they're going to open up and be willing to talk about those things. So it goes back to spending time and building those relationships. We're a people who want things fast, right? We got drive-throughs. We got Walmart delivers things to your house. You can pull up at Walmart and get your groceries. We get everything right when we want it. When it comes to this, we got to be willing to put in the effort. We got to be willing to put in the time. And we have to be willing to simply just serve other people. We talked about this a little bit on Sunday, and I think maybe this is one of those that kind of hinders us the most. We're always so busy. We have so many other irons in the fire, and we have so many other things that we're doing that we step away from opportunities to help other people. We have to be willing to make time. We're all tired this time of the evening. We're all ready for our lazy boy, right? We're ready for our couch, whatever the case may be. Well, what happens when you leave here and you see somebody on the side of the road who's trying to change a tire? Right? Aaron's got a whole bus full of men ready to go to work. We don't all have that privilege, right? We don't all have that luxury, but nonetheless, we have to be willing to make the time, and we have to be willing to serve others even when we're tired, because if we look at our master, we look at our teacher, we look at the master evangelist, he did it when he was tired. He did it when he was fatigued. He did it when he had so many other things going on. He constantly served other people, so we have to be willing to make time. And whatever you do for them, and this kind of goes back to what Kay was saying earlier, whatever you do for them, do to the best of your ability. Right? If you're disingenuous, or is that the word? Disingenuous? Is that right? If you're not sincere in your efforts, it will be seen. Right? It's noticed. People see through those things. If your heart's not in it, people will see through it. Whatever you try and do for other people, do it to the best of your ability. We're going to stop there for this evening. Hey, look at that timing. I was fixing to ask for any questions or thoughts, but that will close us for this evening. Next Wednesday, we're going to go back to John 4, and we're going to look at Jesus and his work there with the woman at the well.